fawr chi. Diolch i Nick ar ti, mae pob yn diflannu yma. Diolch i Nick ar ti am drefnu'r gynadledd yma hefyd. Dwi'n meddwl bod e'n syniad arbennig o dda i ddod â cartrefi Cymru i gyda'i gilydd ar ymfudolaeth arbedynnu. Dwi'n meddwl bod e'n syniad arbennig o dda i gael partneriaeth ar draws Cymru, a'r math o partneriaeth yma mae Jane newydd fod yn sôn amdani. Mae rhaid yn hanfodol bwysig os ydyn ni eisiau taclo'r y syniad yma o sut ni'n mynd ati i wneud rhywbeth ynglyn â taclo y broblem o tlodi egni tu fewn y cymunedau. Dwi'n ymwybodol iawn bod fi'n siarad gyda stafell yn llawn o arbenigwyr, a mae os yn challenge i fi, ond beth licen i wneud heddi yw canolbwyntio a rhoi y cwestiwn yma mewn i cyd-destun lot ehangach na'r canfas dwi'n gweithio arni fel arfer yw'r canfas mwy eang. A licen i jyst rhoi rhybydd i chi mewn gwirionedd ynglyn â ble ni'n mynd gyda'r problem yna o ynni. Now, today we're all feeling the pinch in terms of energy prices. I just came now in the car with somebody, and of course you come with the taxi driver, and the first thing they start talking about is the dreadful cost of petrol. It was very difficult to mention the fact you're a politician at times like that. But anybody, I think, who drives a car will have noticed the massive increase in energy prices. Anybody who runs a home will know that energy prices have gone up by 40%. And I think we've got to acknowledge, it's interesting, the Roundtrees Trust came up with a whole list of things yesterday of what are essential items for people. Now, they worked out that a car is not an essential item. I would question that if you live in parts of rural Wales, but they thought that having a car was not an essential item. Having heating, however, clearly is. And I think we have to understand that this is absolutely fundamental to the quality of life of people living not just here in Wales but across the EU. But you've seen the price of energy increase already, 40% in terms of bills. But I must tell you, I must warn you that I don't think we've seen anything yet. I have real concerns about where we're heading globally with this picture. Let me just give you just a picture of what's happening in the world. There's been a massive increase in global demand, but it's only just starting. Just imagine what's happening in China and India. By 2050, they're going to be twice as many, or we're going to see population growth from 6 billion to 9 billion people. And on top of that, we're going to see the increased prosperity of those people. China and India, they're just starting to develop. You know, on the roads of Beijing, there are 10,000 new cars every day. Just in Beijing, one city. A new skyscraper is finished every hour in China. Just imagine what that's going to do to the demand for energy in the world. I think we're in serious, dire straits unless we change the way we behave, we change the way we adapt ourselves to this new economy. On top of that, we've got a situation where it's increasingly difficult to access oil and gas supplies. We're reaching a point of peak oil demand. There's still oil there, but it's much more expensive to get to it. And of course, on top of that again, we have this issue of climate change that we didn't have in the past. And if we are serious about heeding the notice that Stern gave us, we must either pay now or pay a hell of a lot later on. So all of these things add to a problem that we are likely to see that is probably likely to get worse rather than better in future. Now, in the EU, we've set out a series of measures to address these issues. We have the emissions trading scheme. This covers about 40% of the worst carbon emitters within the EU. And it in particular affects electricity generators, who, I'm sure, will pass on those costs, and some of them have already passed on those costs to consumers. Now, you've also seen that the UK government, as Jane mentioned, has set up this consultation process in terms of the increase in energy from renewables. I must tell you, we've got a lamentable record on this in the UK. 1.5% of our energy is from renewables at the moment. And we want to see that increased. Certainly at an EU level, there is a binding target now, a binding target. We have to meet it or we'll be fined 20% by 2020. The UK share of that is 15%. This is a mountain to climb in 12 years. But again, the costs are likely to fall on the consumer. So these are serious problems that we have to confront. And on top of that, again, we have the issue of security of supply. Today, 30% of our gas in the EU comes from 3 sources. By 2030, 70% of our gas will come from 3 sources, mostly from Russia. Now, all of us want to keep the lights on, and we've got to be serious about, I think, making sure that there's a divergence in terms of where we get our energy sources from. Again, that may cost us more money. We're taking these issues very, very seriously in the EU, and we have a whole strategy to tackle the issue. They are being filtered down to the local level, and obviously in the Assembly these are being picked up. We talk about some of the things that Jane talked about. This is the manifestation of what we're deciding at an EU level. The 20% renewable target has to be implemented on the ground within our own communities. Otherwise, they're simply targets. Recently, I've been leading the discussion within the European Parliament on renewing the electricity directive. Now, at the moment, hardly any of our continental partners want to sell us energy, even when our prices are higher than theirs, because of the construction of the market. So getting the continental market working properly should have an effect on the prices within the UK. And you've seen recently the Commission has opened a case against an investigation into 2 of the largest energy companies in the EU, who they think may have been colluding to keep the price of gas high. Now, these things have an effect on our gas prices, so getting that continental market right is absolutely crucial. Now, one thing that we have done within the European Parliament is, in recent weeks, put the issue of energy poverty onto the EU agenda. It's very sensitive, because you can imagine member states like to keep control, and they don't like us, people interfering in their affairs. But I think that you have to acknowledge that the issue of energy poverty has to take on an international dimension as well. Some of the issues that are causing an increase in the energy prices, like the renewable targets, like the emissions trading scheme, have come from European directives. So it makes sense for us to tackle the issue, and also to learn from each other. Every country in Europe tackles energy poverty in a different way. You may be interested to learn, however, that I know you all think we're terrible at the moment, we're not doing enough, but we're about the only country in Europe that has a definition of energy poverty. Nobody else has a definition. They're not even collecting data or statistics. And if you think it's bad for us, imagine what it's like in Eastern European countries. So getting this issue onto the agenda has not been easy. We're still not there, but at least we've got the backing of the European Parliament now. Of course, in the UK, we have a definition of energy poverty: a household that needs to spend at least 10% of its income on fuel to maintain an acceptable temperature. And energy poverty, we are trying to say within the EU, because trying to get a common definition across the EU is going to be fairly difficult, because there are different factors. Energy poverty in Greece may be different from that of Latvia. So trying to get a common definition is not that straightforward. But what we are saying is that you should base it on the World Health Organization criteria. So it needs to be assessed on the basis of being able to heat your house to an acceptable temperature, 21 degrees in the living area and 18 degrees in other occupied rooms. But on top of that, within this directive, we have been calling on for a number of issues which we think will help to tackle the issue of energy poverty. For example, the installation of smart meters across the whole of the EU within 10 years. Well, we've seen evidence to suggest in places like Italy that you can see a 20% cut in the use of energy simply by people having their awareness raised, knowing when it's more expensive to use that energy, switching those standby buttons off at night.